Oh yeah, I totally forgot that this movie was coming out. I think I'm not alone in that. Ladies and gentlemen, welcome back to another video with Swaggle. And in this one, we need to talk about one guy. One guy losing his mind. Actually, multiple one guys or girls losing their mind over the recent Kraven trailer that came out, as well as the other D23 Marvel trailer leaks that caused a ruckus in the comic book buying secondary market to the tune of one sale per character, which I thought was really interesting. And so in this video, I wanted to do a little recap on the Kraven trailer as well as the other announcements coming out of D23 and talk about this idea of FOMO or lack thereof of FOMO. What is it that makes Doctor Doom books sell or X-Men covers sell in relation to Deadpool and Wolverine, and Thunderbolts continue to sit on the shelf? Well, I got two words for that. Really, it's surprise and legacy. But of course, before I get into it, if you guys could like, comment, subscribe, I'd appreciate it. Helps support the channel doing those things. But let us get into this video here today. There you guys see it. The image that I can't zoom in on. All right, that's as good as it's going to get. RHINO making his on-screen debut. What do you guys think about this? Oh, I said on-screen debut. RHINO has already made his on-screen debut in Amazing Spider-Man #2. Although, do we even count that one? You know what I mean? A lot of people had issue with that costume. How do we feel about the more comic accurate version of this character? I mean, Sony hasn't had the best track record when it comes to their Marvel movies, so, the trend is the trend until it is not. But that didn't stop one guy from going absolutely crazy on the secondary market. And by crazy, I mean buying the book of their dreams, perhaps. We saw a 9.4 sale of Amazing Spider-Man #41, first appearance of RHINO. Look at this book, a beautiful copy of this thing, selling for the whopping price of $5,800. Now, what makes the sale interesting to me is that here I am in the sold listings category. You can actually see that someone threw it up right away. It was a new listing, and this person bought it instantaneously, which kind of suggests that maybe it was too low of a price, or, maybe it's the exact right price, because kind of where we are in the comic book market is, if you price it right, people are going to buy the book. And certainly someone did for this one. But let's focus in on this 9.4 and see kind of where we are in the current state of the market. One of the interesting things that I think, when it comes to correction of values and where things have been going, especially in relation to the comic book index that I've been putting together, is I feel like we're starting to see a little bit of a separation between the median range of key comic books and the high end of key comic books. With this book that is the top 1.7%, there's not too many copies out there. And I guess if you're just that person that, wants a really high grade ASM run, you're willing to pay that fixed price. Although when I look at this graph, and I think about the index and kind of where prices maybe want to, reset back down to their end of 2020 level, maybe to me this should be a $4,000, $4,200, $4,400 book based on how things are going. But at the same time, when you're in the top 1.7%, as soon as that book gets listed on eBay, somebody definitely had to buy it. And it's funny because I don't know what you guys thought about this trailer overall. I mean, a lot of people watched it. And again, shout out to the internet. The internet is always undefeated. Let's read a few comments really quick, just before we move on to the rest of the story of the books in the market. I love the part where RHINO got his powers from the drop of rhinoceros blood and learned with great horns comes great horniness. Oh my God. At this point, I think Sony makes more with the trailers on YouTube. That might be a possibility. You guys see the box office for Borderlands? Can't wait to hear him say, "Man, I am really Kraven. Some hunting." Oh man, the lines in this one are going to be great. Maybe this is going to be a movie that is like ironically good, because everyone has been down on it and making fun of it, but maybe kind of like Morbius, what Morbin Time wanted to be. People will actually, have fun with this one. I think it's actually possible based on where the wind is blowing. Now, if that happens, maybe ASM #15 is going to have a bounce back because, again, like RHINO, there was only one guy that got excited about it and bought a 2.5 for $579. Now, there was an auction that sold after this on August 15th, the next day, at $689. But, did the auctioneer really know that the book was going to end at this time when the trailer came out? I mean, someone was going to buy it regardless. So I'm more interested in the sort of buy it now behavior, which, again, I think is a pretty decent price considering that the 4.0 sold for only, $100 more. But if we check in here on this book and we go down to sort of the low grade range, let's take a look and see how that 579 did, because I actually do think, much like the RHINO book, it's, as you guys can see, a little bit of an uptick. We're starting to feel that a little bit in the market with some of these books. I mean, at least for the one person that's willing to buy it. And this is actually a book that, maybe even corrected too much at certain points, because you can see some sold prices here in August of 2020 for this were $600, where this book fell all the way to $382. I mean, it could be the fact that, nobody actually cared about Kraven. Everyone was specking on him all the way back when. But at the same time, this is still a top 20 ASM book with a great character, right? Like, the movie has nothing to do with how special of a book that this one actually is. Unlike some of the other books related to some of the other characters that had singular movement in the secondary market as a result of leaked trailers. We got the leak for the Thunderbolts trailer at D23. Now, D23, if you guys don't know, was a Disney event where it's kind of like a Hall H panel. They kind of talk a lot about the movies and upcoming projects, but they really focus more in on the TV shows. I think that that's how they've been kind of breaking it out, where San Diego Comic-Con is their big movie stuff, and then D23 is now going to be their TV show stuff, although they did show an advanced trailer for Thunderbolts. Now, I'm not going to talk about it because it was a leaked trailer, no spoilers and all that sort of thing, but what I did think was interesting is that the movie does focus on Yelena Belova, and I'm pretty certain that that's not a spoiler. I think that was already mentioned by the filmmakers, but as you guys can see, in the wake of this week, we did get one buy it now sale on August 15th for $149. Man, oh man, Inhumans number 5, quote unquote, the first appearance of Yelena Belova. I know there's some controversy with this one. Man, this is a book that has really, really tapered off. It's really fallen off from its peak. And you sort of have to wonder, I mean, unlike the Kraven book, will books like this ever really bounce back? I mean, I think Florence Pugh does a good job with his character, but look at what people were paying for this book once upon a time. $723, at the height of 2021. This book all the way back down to $141. Even in 2020, this book was $178. There were times early in the census when it was at 300. And you know what? Speaking of census, this is actually a great example of books where the census can deceive you. I think a lot of the historic keys, the legacy keys, like the ASMs, like the, Fantastic Fours and things of that nature, those ones are fairly set in terms of what we know to be out there on the census. Like, even if more books continue to be graded, those were already raw keys that people were spending money on already. But then you have books like this that were, essentially spec books that got hot, in phase 4. And maybe at the time, when people started to get interested in this thing, they were willing to pay $350 because they had no idea how many were on the census. I mean, we can't go back in time, but we can see that here at the 9.8 level, there's 529. Maybe at this time, there were only 100 books that were actually graded at 9.8. Maybe there were 200, whatever it was, but half of the supply. So it makes sense that the price would be twice as much in that particular instance. I mean, then it goes all the way up to $700, and then anyone who has this book is motivated to get it graded. I mean, they look at it and they're like, oh, it's a key. It sells for $700. I got to get it graded. And now where it is, now you have bloat in the census, 529, and there's just too many books out there. Nobody can make any sales. And even with the leaked trailer, there's only one guy. There's only one guy that actually wants it. Much like this book now as well. Ironheart also got a leaked trailer, and I thought it would be kind of interesting to talk about this book right here, Invincible Iron Man number 9 from 2016, first full appearance of Riri Williams, another book that had one guy. All right, two guys. We can see that actually two people got excited about 9/8s this week and sold and bought them for $139 and $125 respectively. But man, oh man, much like the Yelena Belova book, this is one that really has fallen off. And this is one also that has so many copies out there. I mean, it's only a 2016 book. This was a heavily spec'd on character. Even at the time in which this book came out, people were talking about this character. And you guys can actually see, I mean, look at how many grades are at the 9.8 level, 1,455. That's in comparison to the 3,512 that are on the census. So not too difficult to get this book in high grade. I mean, 41.4% of them actually hit 9.8. And you can see what that does to the value. I mean, even this book, like Yelena Belova, was more expensive in 2018 and 2019 than it is today. These were selling as high as $880 in September of 2021. Now you can pick it up for less than $100. I mean, and one of the other problems with Riri Williams as well is that there's a lot of competition when it comes to her keys, her books. Like, this is the first full appearance. There's a cameo appearance, and then there's like a second cameo, and then there's like a first cover, and then there's a first, version of her wearing the suit, and all of these other things. And so you have this dilution in terms of what people actually want to collect. And this is one of the reasons why, spending this type of money on this book at that time was never really going to be a good choice. Although, if you're the one guy who's super, super excited to have the book because of the trailer or, because of the character, I mean, this is great. This is a great time for you to be picking up this book. Congrats to those people. Now, the last trailer to talk about was the Daredevil one. They showed some footage of this. We don't need to get into ASM 129 or Daredevil 1. I just thought it was kind of interesting to talk about. These books have definitely sort of evened off as well because they are legacy books. They are legacy characters, and that's enough to sort of keep them now afloat, which goes back to the question I proposed at the start of the video, which is, what is it about certain books that get FOMO versus other books that don't get FOMO? And to me, it can be summed up in two words. I think it's surprise and legacy. You have to have a character that has the legacy that historically is collected by comic book collectors. And on top of that, you have to have the surprise as well. At this point, every character has been spec'd on. Every book has seen its 15 minutes of fame. And unless you have the surprise element, Robert Downey Jr. cast as Dr. Doom, for instance, you're just not going to be able to generate the excitement. There's not going to be people that don't already have the book that need to get their hands on it. And that's really the biggest factor. Anyways, that's all for this video. Let me know what you guys think. What do you guys think about the Kraven trailer? Did you guys even remember that this movie was coming out this year? What do you guys think about all the other news coming out here? What do you guys think about these books? Are you the one guy or girl that was excited to pick these things up? Let me know. Anyways, thanks so much for watching. Like, comment, subscribe. See you all next video.